Well, hello and welcome to More to the Story with Molly White. I'm glad you joined me again today for another great episode. And again, I'm going to have a reoccurring guest because some of our guests have so much information to share that we can't possibly get it in on one 30-minute show. And so I want you to stay tuned. I want you to invite other people to join in because this information is going to be very important, especially when it talks about abortion pill reversal and abortion health care and other topics. I want to bring in Mary, my awesome, wonderful co host, first before we discuss a little bit more about today's show. Hey, Mary.
Hi, Molly. Thank you. It's good to be on the show again today. I am excited, as you said, about our guest. He's got some really insightful information and information I think our listeners will be excited to learn about.
Absolutely. He is a researcher, and it's Dr. Sammut that we have had on before. And we kind of barely touched on some of the opposition that he and I'm sure other researchers have when it comes to releasing studies that are politically charged. And so we want to welcome back Dr. Samut.
Hello, hello, and thank you for having me back on. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's an honor. And so, Dr. Samut, if you would just really quick introduce yourself again and give us a little bio, and then we're going to jump right into our discussion today.
Sure. So, my background, my undergraduate degree was in pharmacy. I studied that in Australia, actually. And then I continued on to as a behavioral neuroscientist. That's what my PhD is in. As a behavioral neuroscientist at the preclinical level, I investigate, my area of expertise is psychopathology. So, that's basically brain disorders and their consequences on behavior. And in that regard, because I investigate primarily, not always, at the preclinical level, I do experimentation on what are called animal models. So that's a very quick background in regards to how I came into this field. And I've been investigating abortion and abortion pill reversal now for the past few years, and I continue to do so.
Amen. And I really enjoyed our first show we had with you. And I'm going to ask my producer to make sure that when he advertises this, to put the link for our first interview with you on, because I think it's a great precursor to this discussion if our viewers have not seen it yet or listened to it. So let's talk a little bit. You know, you did talk about the abortion model and how it affected your research animals after they had an abortion compared to those who either spontaneously miscarried or had their offspring. And that was very good. But I do want to kind of focus today's discussion on abortion pill reversal, because this is important information for women to know, because I believe what you say, Mary, 70% of all abortions now are ended through the abortion pill. And
It's
in that
estimated to be 67%, but I think it's even more. Yes. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, and that's, we've had guests on that had that abortion through that method. We've had helpline counselors on talking about the calls they've been getting. Very traumatic, very traumatic. But these women did not know that they could reverse that. So let's talk about your research and your findings.
Sure, absolutely. If I may, I'm going to very quickly recap in one sentence what we found with the abortion study. So, with the abortion study, what we discovered is that rats that were administered the abortion pill in order to induce an abortion and a termination of pregnancy, those were the only rats that showed anxiety like behavior, depression like behavior, and significant physiological changes that need to be investigated further in the future. So, all in all, the abortion was the major factor that influenced these negative consequences. Now, mifepristone is actually quite a dangerous drug, and there's significant literature in that regard. There's even a book written by a group of scientists who are actually pro abortion, but they are more in favor of the surgical abortion. And yet, in their book, they outline the dangers that have been hidden from women, as you said, in regards to the abortion, in regards to the abortion pill, RU486. Uh, and realistically speaking, these are things that we continue to see. Even in my study, and I believe I forgot to mention this aspect, even in my study, we report this in the paper, we actually saw the death of one of the rats, and the
Mhm.
reason why it died was similar to the one of the reasons that ends up being a cause of death in women who use this drug for abortion: significant excessive bleeding.
Mm.
So having set up that model, then I wanted to continue investigating in regards to this abortion pill reversal. And the reason for it is it's being questioned, and it's being questioned by the government. It's being questioned at the legislative level, in the courts. It's being questioned by the scientific and medical organizations that supposedly are there to inform and give authoritative information to the public. So I wanted to investigate it at the preclinical level again, because while there was some research that had been done, it wasn't done specifically in the way that I did, and also it did not utilize the previous model that I had set up. Because when you build something in science, you want to keep on building on it. So before I get into my work, I just want to emphasize that, first of all, at the clinical level, of course, I have to acknowledge Dr. Delgado, Dr. George Delgado from San Diego in California,
Yes.
and also Dr. Matthew Harrison from North Carolina. These are the people who implemented it at the clinical level, and they implemented it. They weren't just they weren't. This wasn't just guesswork. They had reasoning behind what they did. Also, Dr. Mary Davenport was involved in that. And there were
Mhm.
a number of other people. Um, so these people had provided evidence and support for arguing that progesterone could be utilized in order to reverse the pregnancy. Let me just say this. I think many of us are familiar with the fact that progesterone is used to maintain pregnancies in women who are at risk of losing it. That's a universal, that there's a universal understanding in that regard. So, as I said, I wanted to acknowledge these doctors, and then I want to also acknowledge what is not acknowledged. And this is a couple of studies, a few studies that were conducted by a Japanese investigator, and also by, believe it or not, the FDA. The FDA knows that abortion pill reversal works. So the studies of both this Japanese investigator and the FDA were conducted in rats, and in the case of the FDA, they conducted it in rats and rabbits. And in both cases, what they did was they gave the mifepristone and the progesterone together to see what happened. Now, I think I'd better take a step back here and just explain, maybe for people who may not be familiar, what abortion pill reversal is. Abortion pill reversal. So if a woman regrets her abortion, there's about 72 hours or so time period after taking the first pill, the mifepristone, in which the woman can seek help and be given progesterone in order to reverse the effects of the mifepristone and stop the abortion from happening.
Okay.
Okay, so what these studies that I'm talking about, the FDA and the Japanese investigator did, was they gave the mifepristone and the progesterone together. Now, here I think it's important to address, to give an analogy. When we're talking about how drugs work in the body, the easiest example I can give is what they call the lock and key analogy. So, progesterone, any drug. Let's talk general here. When you have a drug and it interacts in the body, what it does is if you imagine the drug to be the key and the body to have a lock, the key goes into a lock and then you can open the door. So in the case of progesterone, in the case of pregnancy, progesterone is important in maintaining pregnancy. So progesterone goes into the lock, and in being there, it helps keep the pregnancy. What does mifepristone do? Mifepristone comes and removes the progesterone from the receptor, and as a result, causing the termination of the pregnancy. Now, I want to give a disclaimer on this analogy. When we think of a lock and key, you put a key in the lock, and you keep it there, turn it, and you remove it when you're done. But when drugs bind in the body, they don't bind and stay in there until they're finished and then are removed. There's a dynamic of binding, disconnecting, and because this dynamic is taking place, this is why we are able to give the progesterone to basically wash out the mifepristone, to displace it when it becomes disconnected from the receptor, to remove it from the receptor when the moment it disconnects, and then the progesterone to connect and help in maintaining the pregnancy. So that's basically, in short, here I've kind of given a summary of the chemistry, that the logical chemistry. This chemistry knowledge that I've just addressed is understood by any chemist. What I'm telling you is not something we just discovered, or somebody in the pro-life movement discovered. Anybody studying chemistry studies this kind of binding of agonists and antagonists, which is what we call them. So with that, if you wish, I can then proceed with what we actually found and what we did. As you wish.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
I just want you to keep going because my questions will come later. Mhm.
Okay, so I wanted to address this question. I wanted to address it in a different way to what the FDA and the Japanese investigator did. The reason being is that they gave the two drugs together. Now, in humans, that rarely happens. A woman doesn't go to the abortion clinic, takes the abortion pill, and simultaneously they also give her the progesterone. It
Right.
doesn't work that way.
Right.
So when we're
Right.
dealing with animal models, preclinical models, our goal is to try and be as similar to the human condition as possible in order to increase the validity. So, in my
Yes.
case, that was the major aspect. I did not want to be giving the two drugs together, and I wanted to see some evidence that the abortion had begun in my abortion pill reversal group, because
Mhm.
otherwise, technically, somebody could argue, well, you never saw the abortion start. How do you know that the abortion drug was not working, for example? So I
Mhm.
wanted to see evidence of that. So, and that's what I did. So I did not administer the two together. I actually gave them 10 minutes apart. First the mifepristone, and then the misoprostol. Now you may the
The-
progesterone, sorry.
mhm.
Now you may say, well, it doesn't work that way in humans either, because in humans they don't take the progesterone 10 minutes after they take the mifepristone. Yes, but we have to also remember that in humans, that the animal time is not human time. So 10 minutes in the rat is equivalent to about 6 to 9 hours in a human, which is a reasonable amount of time in terms of when a woman is likely to regret. Now, in terms of what the professional organizations are telling us, they don't believe that women regret. Now, there are so many studies that actually indicate that a significant proportion of women regret having an abortion for one reason or another. In some cases, they realize what they have done. Other cases, they were coerced, and that is a major factor to keep in mind. So, there is a significant body of people, a significant body of women who do regret. And the 6 to 9 hours is not perfect, but it is as at least similar to the human aspect that we observe. So we administered the progesterone into our animals, and we administered the mifepristone and then the progesterone. What we observe in the abortion group, this is the group that does not receive the progesterone. In the abortion group, we see that, like in the first study that I described, these rats will lose weight significantly and bleed significantly,
Mhm.
and continue to lose weight and basically never gain it again. That's because the abortion has worked, and there are no living living babies. On the other hand, however, in the rats that were given the mifepristone and the progesterone, those rats started losing weight. They showed signs of bleeding, and then they started regaining weight at the same rate that the rats in a normal pregnancy gain weight. And this
Hmm.
showed that literally the mifepristone, the progesterone, sorry, had actually reversed the effect of mifepristone. Now, what is interesting is that the reviewers, and this is where you start seeing how sick, unfortunately, academia has become.
Hmm.
The reviewers ref- could not stomach, I think that's the best way to say it, the word reversed.
Hmm.
And in fact, I had to argue with the editor, saying that in reality, there is nothing else I can call it, because in the abortion group, the rats that had the abortion lost 100% of their embryos, of their babies.
Hmm.
Whereas in the case of the group that was given progesterone, those rats, we saw 81% of those rats had had fetuses at the end of their pregnancy.
So they
So
continued their pregnancy and gave birth.
yes, yes.
Wow.
And at the end of the pregnancy, the fetuses in the abortion pill reversal group were not different from the group that was a normal pregnancy. Now, you may say, well, what about after birth? Well, the after birth aspect is something I still need to investigate. And the reason for this is because of the complexity of pregnancy. Pregnancy is very complicated, a very complicated process, and you really can't talk about pregnancy without talking about birth and then talking about lactation. All those tie hand in hand. They're all tied up together. So in the case of the rat, because the life is compressed, significantly compressed, in that situation, playing around, tweaking those minutes, literally minutes, in terms of when to give progesterone, inducing of birth, etc. Those are very crucial time points. And those were aspects I still needed to work on. So, what I can say from my study is that clearly, until the end of pregnancy, the rats that were given progesterone showed live babies, live offspring via ultrasound, and normal heart rates, normal dimensions in terms of size as the normal pregnancy group.
Wow.
Now, what we're seeking to investigate in the upcoming studies is the birth aspect and living. See, the thing is, if birth is delayed in a rat because of the progesterone, progesterone prevents the cervical ripening. In lay terms, what that means is it prevents the softening of the cervix in preparation for birth. So in the rat, if a rat does not give birth when it's supposed to give birth, I can't just do a C-section and then give them formula milk in order to sustain them. It doesn't work that way. So I had to figure out those aspects, and now I'm in the process of continuing the experiment after figuring out how to address that aspect. So that's a basic summary of my results. The
Wow.
paper did get rejected the first time I submitted it to the journal Frontiers in Endocrinology. Um, there's a lot
That's
of politics.
Dr. Sammut, that's who you presented. So when you do this research and you come up with these findings and you present this research, who do you present it to for publishing
Okay, so
or for review?
when you're done writing the paper, you submit it to a journal, and that journal sends it out for peer review, they call it. So other scientists are reviewing your paper in order to see that the experiment was done correctly, etc., etc. The journal that you pick, that depends on the topic that you are addressing. It's not it can vary. In my case, I submitted it initially to Frontiers in Endocrinology because endocrinology, I'm dealing with hormones. That's the endocrine system. So it made sense to me to submit it to a journal, the journal Frontiers in Endocrinology. So what happened there is it was accepted by two reviewers and also by the handling editor. And once it's accepted by those people, then it moves to the next stage, which is the publication stage. So technically, then you get contacted by the journal. Can you give us this graph or fix this graph? You know, they're making it pretty for publication purposes. And I didn't hear anything. And then suddenly, probably about a couple of months after, I receive an email from the chief editor saying that they have rejected the paper. And the reason they gave was that the paper did not meet the journal standards. Now, you know, I don't know everything, but I've been in this field for 30 years, and you know, that's a joke.
Did they
You
have did they
check.
have a printed standard that they send out to people before publication?
Yep, yep,
Do they?
yes, they do. And
Uh,
the publication standards, whether you meet publication standards or not, is checked at the beginning of the submission, not after
uh,
it's gone out to review.
okay. Okay, because I was going to
So,
say it's already been approved. All they have to do is publish it, and
yep,
then they're
yep,
coming back. Well, how much? 2 or 3 months later, you said?
about 2 months. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So then I wrote to the editor and I said, okay, come on, this is not the real reason. Give me the real reason. And he did respond. He and he CC'd a couple of other people. He did respond. And if I may, I'm going to read that to you verbatim from the email what he said. This
Please.
was the last response. He said, lastly, the manuscript
No.
might be interpreted as supporting the notion of a pharmacological reversal of induced pregnancy termination in humans, a concept which, in line with recent statements by the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology in the US and the Royal College of Obstetrics and Gynecology in the UK, cannot be supported. So, what he's saying is that because these organizations do not believe that abortion per reversal can take place, then what you are saying will contradict what they say, and it's not fit for publication for that reason. So basically, it's not objective reality, objective investigation that matters. What matters is the political ideology that needs to be followed. That was a verbatim quote.
Because I was wondering, did they have research that they can counter your research with, or is
No.
no? All they had was a biased opinion,
Hmm. Yes,
and
absolutely.
and
No, no research whatsoever.
like you said earlier, you mentioned that these scientists don't believe that women regret their abortions or would even want to change their
Your
mind
mind
about having an
about
abortion.
having.
And so we can give you plenty of testimonies that would
Right.
change your mind because we have the testimonies in uh, legally admissible declarations, and we have them also recorded. So if you need any backup information, go, oh, yes, they do regret their abortions. In fact, how can you not? Especially with your research with your lab rats. They displayed, those who had the abortion displayed signs of depression, weight loss, isolation, those kinds of things. Well, that's common in women as well. So so let's talk about this establishment opposition, rejection of research based on politics.
That aspect, I think, is very important for the layperson to comprehend. You know, when I do research, and maybe I said this, forgive me if I'm repeating myself, maybe I said this last time. My obligation as a scientist is to the truth, towards the truth. It is to investigate it as objectively as possible. Am I ever going to investigate it perfectly? No, I'm human as well. But I have to set up my experiments appropriately in order to investigate it as objectively as possible. And then my obligation is towards the people who I serve. As a scientist, I am not the one how do I put it? I am obligated towards the public. I do my research for the benefit of the public. So I
Mhm.
have to share it. So when, you mentioned this earlier, when we have these women going to take the abortion pill that they're told is as safe as Tylenol, which may not be as safe at all either, um, the reality is that these women are being deprived of their fundamental rights, which are the ability to be fully informed in order to be able to make a particular decision. they
Absolutely.
they need to know the potential harms, they need to know the potential options, and abortion pill reversal is an option. And sadly, these cases are now being taken to court. In Colorado, for example, there was a situation where, in fact, my study was utilized in order to argue in this regard, because there are efforts at the legislative level where they are trying to prevent doctors from being able to practice the abortion pill reversal, because
Mm.
they say it is not founded in science, but it is. It is. It's and in fact, um, I came across the FDA study actually after I had published my paper, because then ultimately I did publish my paper potentially in a better journal, because it's actually a nature journal. So God has his own ways of doing things.
He
Uh,
does. I love it.
so it was utilized in the Colorado. I can't remember what the Senate bill was called, but it was as evidence of the fact that there is evidence of abortion pill reversal working. So the general public needs to be aware of the opposition, that ideological opposition that exists towards objective reality as shown by science. People should not be antagonized by science. I beg people not to be antagonized by science. God doesn't contradict himself.
Right.
That's good. Uh, Doctor, I'd like to mention just a couple of things right now. When you're talking about this, it's reminding me that on October 6th, the state of Louisiana sued the FDA, and
Mhm.
and they actually said the FDA is claiming that this is safe, that mifepristone and the regimen is safe, and they're misleading women, and that they've approved it based upon false information. In
Hmm.
addition, sued Missouri sued the Planned Parenthood Federation in July for deceptive trade practices for the very purpose of what you said, that they claim it's safer than Tylenol, penicillin, and Viagra. And they said it's just not true. So those lawsuits are ongoing. So we don't know the outcome of those lawsuits yet, but we are seeing people trying to bring this industry to account for the misinformation. And you're trying to get the real information out there. So I just want to thank you on behalf of women that
Yes.
find themselves in an unplanned pregnancy and are being duped by the FDA and by Planned Parenthood and the
Absolutely.
abortion
And,
industry.
and now they're coming up with a generic mifepristone. Is
Uh-huh.
that correct?
Yes.
So
There's been
do you know
They've
anything
just
about
approved the
that
second
drug?
generic.
Mhm, mhm.
I mean, the generic aspect, okay, I don't know much information about it, but when they talk about a generic, it's basically they've released the rights for another company to synthesize and sell the drug. But I don't know anything more about the details of that aspect. I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't know much more in that regard.
Mhm. Well, we only have a few minutes left. Mary, was there any other question you'd like to ask before I ask him to address our audience?
I do want to ask, did the original publication ever publish your study, or they just said it doesn't comport with the politics, basically? So we're not gonna. Did they ever publish it?
No, no, they did not, because then the way
Okay.
publications work, if I submit it to another journal, then it belongs, if you want to call it this, it belongs to the journal that it's now published in.
Yeah.
So no, that was the
Okay.
end of the conversation. So
With
I
okay.
published it, And one of the things that I'm doing more and more in my case is I'm maintaining the copyright of what I publish, so that that helps as well. But yeah, it was published in the new journal called Scientific Reports, but no, it wasn't in the other.
Okay, great. Well, we got it published. Praise God. That was
Yes.
so. What I want our viewers and our listeners to come away with is that Dr. Sammut has done extensive research on abortion pill reversal, and we do know that Dr. Delgado, Dr. Harrison, Dr. Davenport were involved in that as well. But how would you encourage someone who's listening that they just took this drug, or they've taken it within 72 hours, they've been having regrets and a lot of distress about it? What would you encourage that woman to do?
I would strongly encourage that woman to speak with somebody at the Abortion Pill Reversal Network, to seek assistance from people who support her, who will support that decision, and are not going to traumatize her even more and make a difficult decision even more difficult. So I would say that such a woman should seek support and seek the advice of the Abortion Pill Reversal Network, in finding a doctor that will prescribe the progesterone in order to help her assist in potentially reversing it. Just one thing I want to say is that the safety of progesterone was actually demonstrated even in a recent study that was published about 2 weeks ago, that shows that vaginal progesterone did not have any negative consequences on the offspring, even up to when they were 6 to 9 years old, I believe. So the safety of progesterone has been proven, contrary to the safety of mifepristone, which there isn't any.
Awesome. And give us the website of the Abortion Pill Reversal Network, and then I want Mary to give the phone number.
The Abortion Pill Reversal Network, I believe, is APRN. I don't know if it's .org. I think if a person looks up aprn.org, I believe,
they'll find it. Yeah.
If a person looks up Abortion Pill Reversal, basically, I just want to emphasize there is still hope if you've taken the first pill.
Amen. Amen. And we encourage you to do that. And so, Mary, why don't you give the phone number out, and then we'll have to close the show.
Okay, that number is 877-558-0333. 877-558-0333.
Well, thank you so much. Oh, we've got the abortionpillreversal.com, what our producer just put on there, abortionpillreversal.com. And don't delay. If you regret taking that abortion drug, mifepristone, then there's help and there's reversal for you. Thank you, Dr. Sammut, for coming on More of the Story again. We are going to have you back next time to talk about pornography and mental health. And that's a whole show on its own, and we look forward to having you back. Thank you, Mary, and thank you all for listening in to More to the Story with Molly White. We look forward to seeing you again next time. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hello, friend. Our broadcasting wanted to take a moment to personally thank you for being a listener of the More to the Story podcast. Whether you're a longtime subscriber or just found us, we're so glad you're here. This podcast is a community built on sharing, and that's where you come in. If an episode has ever resonated with you, please consider sharing it. Text it to a friend, post it on social media. Your recommendation is the most powerful way to help these important stories reach new ears. We are also inviting businesses and individuals to partner with us as official sponsors. Sponsoring the podcast is a wonderful way to reach a dedicated, thoughtful audience while directly supporting our mission. If you'd like to explore sponsoring the podcast, we invite you to visit our website at www.moretothestorypodcast.org. Again, that's www.moretothestorypodcast.org. Thank you for being a part of our story.